Hello and welcome to the Sideline Live podcast. My name is Orla Keeling and I am the host of the podcast, where every week we bring you a brand new episode with guests ranging from Olympic champions to local heroes, coaches, support staff and anybody involved in the world of sport. Each week we will dive into different topics, including current affairs in sport, identity, skill, mindset, coaching, and also shine a light on those flying under the radar. So tune in every brand new episodes, new stories and new insights you've never heard before. Okay, delighted to be joined by Kieran Quinn. First of all, Kieran, thanks for joining me, but thank you for having me. I've been staying with you for the last week in Verona, so appreciate you. Welcome you into the family.
Sure. Look, we love what you do, and when people come here, this is an open door. Anyone tied to basketball, Irish basketball specifically, they have a bed and a place to stay in this place. Obviously, being very close to New York City is very helpful for a lot of people. So great to have you.
In terms of people that don't know who you are, give us your elevator pitch. What's your basketball background?
Yeah, I grew up in a small village called White in County Tipperary, which is not known for basketball. It is the heart of GA country in West Tipperary, and I'm very much a hurling fan, and obviously as All-Ireland champions, this has been a special year, and I was very fortunate to be in Croke Park. My journey is a little different, through injury as a kid. Breaking a leg twice was unfortunate, but it turned me into basketball when I was about 15, 16 years old. Long story short, made my way onto Irish underage teams just through pure tenacity and hard work, and that then in turn got me a scholarship to play in college. Graduated from Post University, which was a D2, very good D2 school in Connecticut. From there, basically went on to Wall Street, pursued that, and now I work in the fintech world, and I'm very fortunate to be in a position I want to give back to Irish basketball and kids that are going to pursue the same journey. I'm obviously very involved to this day with my own kids, with Sid playing at the Navy, obviously being part of the Irish underage system, and Kieran being now part of under 16s, under 18s, just like Sid was, and then little Mairead is coming up and Hurley will come in soon, and I'm just very passionate about Irish basketball and continuing to help these kids realise the same dream I had, but the environment is very different today.
How did you get to the States back when there was no online videos, etc.?
Yeah, you and I talked about the story today, and most people don't know this. There was only I called the IBBA, as it was called back then, and I still think I remember the number off the top of my head. But I called and I said, "Is there any basketball clubs in Tipperary?" And it's like, I don't think so. But this lady I talked to, she sent me out basically a packet that had all the clubs in Ireland listed, and there was two listed. There was one in Newport and one in Thurles, and Thurles was only 20 minutes away. It's near where my mother grew up. I called them, and again, no offense to these guys, they said they weren't taking any new players. I was like, God damn it. I called Newport, which is much further away. So it was almost like 45 minutes away, and didn't get an answer. And it happened to be coming home from Limerick one day, and my dad stopped at a petrol station, which is still there, and there was a guy behind the counter. His name is Hugh Sweeney, and I just said, "Do you know anything about the basketball club here in Newport?" And he goes, "I'm the chairman of the basketball club." And I was like, "Really?" And we got talking, and I still get chills when I think about that day, because that changed my whole life. And I went to training there, went up, didn't really know what I was doing. I was a 6'3", long, lanky kid who played hurling and football and kind of knew how to move, but didn't really understand basketball, but had a great desire for it. And Hugh introduced me then to two people that, unbelievably shaped my life. One was John Gleeson, who I'm still very close with to this day, and the other is Pat Duffy, the late Pat Duffy, who the Pat Duffy Cup is called after. And I was just very fortunate to get those two guys in my corner, and they kind of saw the desire I had to get better, and they pushed me. And John being almost like a big brother to me, even though I have 5 older brothers, I really liked his ethic and what he did. And then Pat having the sports science background, and I guess I probably didn't realise that they used me as a guinea pig, but they constantly encouraged me to do better, work harder, and I was just very fortunate to have them, and they were a big part of me really helping me realise that I could do more. Pat had the exposure across the globe to sports, and he's like, "If you want to go to America, we're going to help you." And they did, and I'm very, very grateful to them for that.
The unique thing about your journey at Post was you were 4 Irish guys there at the same time.
Yeah, it was. It's a story probably most people don't know, and it's funny because you met Ronan the other day. Originally, like me and Pete Madsen played on the Irish under-19 team together. And, we're obviously still very close friends with these guys, to say we're like brothers. And then we all ended up at Post, and then Mick Richardson had been there, and Mick was a great player at Vincent's. And then Ronan O'Leary came in my last year, because I was a year ahead of Mick and Pete. And Ronan was my roommate. And, there's many stories to share about me and Ronan being roommates, because you got a guy from Derry and a guy from Kappa White, and sometimes English was sometimes we needed subtitles, and we still laugh to this day. But obviously, it was a very, very unique experience, and I think it was great for all of us that we were all there together. We played on really good teams. We were very well coached. We were very competitive, and the four of us shared, I think, what really is a truly unique experience. I mean, I think I shared something on social media last year, 2 years. The only time that happened since was with the 4 kids at Gill St. Bernard's, with Stanley, Kuba, Gandhi, Kieran and Sidney. That was 5 of them. And the closest thing to that was me, Mick, Pete and Ronan being together at Post. And that just, if that isn't an indicator of the talent that's out there that can do things great individually and collectively, I don't know what is. But the experience at Post was amazing with those guys. Yeah, we still laugh about some of the stuff we did. And, Pete and I are still playing. We're kind of the anchor guys, I guess, or might be the anchor guys for Masters basketball at our age group now, 45 and over. So it's exciting. These are the relationships you build that last a long, long time through basketball.
Cool to get back in the court together.
Yeah, it'll hurt when we get off it, but it's great to get back in. And we've played in several Masters tournaments. It's funny, the Irish under-19 team I played on, we call ourselves the 78ers because we're all born in 78. And it's an extremely close group, right? We've got the WhatsApp group, we've played together in Masters tournaments. We might have got the strategy wrong a few times on what night we should go drinking, but this is the bonds that little ball brings these people from all different backgrounds together and build bonds that have lasted decades.
Can you compare the Irish player coming to the States now versus your time?
No. They're 2 different players. And I thought, it's funny, I was with Neville Charles over the summer because our sons played together. And like Neville and I were here around the same time. Neville's a little older than me, and even Ronan and I were talking about this the other day. And at the time we were considered good players in Ireland because we were on the Irish team, right? And I guess we didn't know any better. The players today are light years ahead of us. Like, I look at some of these kids on under 16, under 18 team. I mean, they would have absolutely killed us. But again, they have exposure to a whole new realm of information, whether it's, the mental side of basketball, the physical side of basketball, just all the skill stuff as well is so different. We've been very fortunate in Ireland to be able to, have a great melting pot of talent and diversity coming into our purview. But no, the player today is so much better than the player from even 10 years ago, never mind 25 years ago, 26 years ago. And that's a great thing. That's why obviously we're sitting here doing this, because there's been an absolute paradigm shift on the level of talent that's coming out of Ireland. You say it yourself, even for the girls' side, this is the golden era. But I think it's the golden era actually across all of Irish underage basketball and how we're stretching ourselves across the globe.
So what are we doing right?
I think what we're doing right is we're trying to give kids more exposure to these opportunities. I mean, I think about some of the stuff that's been set up at home, and I reference Emer Howard's program, House of Rising Hoops. I'm close with Emer, right, because we were here at the same time, trying to develop these players, trying to upskill them, trying to expose them to other things. I think the Irish programs are trying to get better. The national team programs, bringing in strength and conditioning, bringing in more skill-based work, but still obviously staying inside the construct of being better as one unit. I think our coaches are trying to get better, right? And don't get me wrong, there's still gaps, right? But there is in anything that you're striving to make better. But I think we just have more and more players playing basketball. Social media and the platforms are giving kids exposure to far more than there was in the past. So that's great and exciting, but you have to kind of police that a little bit, because there's a lot of non-reality on social media. But there's also some reality. But I think just we continue to expose these kids to better platforms, to better forms of coaching. I love that there's an influence of European coaches coming into Ireland as well, which helps everybody get better. And that's the part that's really exciting, but I think we're only scratching the surface.
What are the gaps?
The gaps in Ireland, infrastructure. I think infrastructure has always been a gap. Even when I was playing, getting access to a gym maybe 2 days a week versus, you've been at the 5th grade girls like that I coach right now, Mairead's group, they're in a gym 5 days a week, an hour and a half each day, and then they're playing tournaments on the weekend. So they're playing basketball 6 or 7 days a week, but we're very conscious of making that not too much for them either. The infrastructure is one, I think, which in turn limits the amount of practices or training sessions you have. I think more coaches, volunteers that give their time, God bless them, they're great. There's a lot of volunteers everywhere, making sure those volunteers are there for the right reasons. Look, that's not just an Ireland thing, that's everywhere.
But like even those, what you've said, it's across all sports in Ireland. There's a governmental role in the infrastructure for even GEA, soccer. It's across the country. It's something that we lack in. We're relying on school gyms built decades ago to house teams of all sports. And that's an issue.
Yeah, and I think, look, it would be great to see the infrastructure pick up. I think it'd be great to see basketball embraced as a crossover sport or transfer skill sport like so many others we have in Ireland. Like we very much encourage kids here to play multiple sports. I don't think we realise how lucky we are with hurling and football and maybe field hockey or rugby, like how those sports all transfer across each other. It's tremendous. I mean, I grew up playing all these sports and I played 3 in college, right? With cross country and soccer being the other 2, but that's why we've got these great athletes coming out of Ireland, because they've played all these other sports, and we should continue to encourage that. But if the infrastructure picked up in Ireland, I do firmly believe we could have a much better impact on in European and international tournaments.
Yeah, absolutely. What first inspired you to help Irish kids come here and pursue basketball?
Unfortunately, it was an issue that happened with a family about 12 years ago. I got a phone call from somebody that I knew. They said a family had gone into financial trouble over a promise that was made to a kid for a scholarship here. And if you think about it, you get a scholarship, right? It doesn't necessarily mean it's 100% scholarship. It just means some financial aid given towards the cost of that expense. This family were led to believe that everything was covered, but they still had to pay an enormous amount of money. And it was too late by the time I was asked to get involved, and this family had to remortgage their house, and it ended up being an extremely stressful time for them. And I kind of made a conscious decision that should never happen to a family. I was very lucky. I didn't come from anything. My parents didn't have anything because it just where we were economically, and I was very fortunate to have good coaches that taught me the right way and how kids should be treated. And obviously, as a father now myself, and Jen and I have 3 kids here, my conscience wouldn't let me allow that happen to another family. So then I started to kind of really insert myself in educating families about what it's like either to come to high school, prep school, all levels of college. I have a vast network of college coaches that I'm friends with and I do some scouting for. And obviously I'm very tapped into the high school network, and I just know how this operates here. And it operates differently in each state, right? But I just didn't want that to happen to another family. And then you look at all the kids that want to play basketball, so I knew I could create pathways for kids, whatever that pathway may be. But I'd be one thing I'm criticised for is being brutally blunt. I probably won't change that, because something like that, you have to be very, very real with families when you're educating them on what it would be, whether it's the time, the cost, the separation, which is hard being away from home. And I'm fortunate enough to have done all this. I left when I was 17, right after my leaving cert, came here, went through the highs and the lows, and fortunately that basketball has opened up doors for me, and I want to open them up for these kids as well.
When you walk into a gym, let's say for example I'm in there and I contact you, I want to pursue basketball, and you come to Ireland for whatever reason, you see me, what's the first thing you look for in a kid that would tell you that they could go and play abroad?
Attitude is the first thing, right? Are they a good kid? Do they have good body language? Is it someone that their teammates like being around? Are they giving high fives? Gina or Emma talks about the 3 E's: energy, effort, and enthusiasm. If you don't have any of those, you're not getting looked at. And I don't think that's just proprietary to UConn players. I think that should be what every coach looks for in a kid, no matter what the sport is. Because when you have those 3 things, the energy, the effort, and enthusiasm, you can create whatever level of athlete you want, as long as they're, what we call locked in and they're intentional about their approach. But that's what I look for. is good body language. That's the first thing. I mean, I've helped kids that I've watched them play and they've scored 0 points because they've dived on loose balls. They've had their teammates back. They're great energy on the bench. Teammate comes off, they get him water and a towel. Right? Yeah, they might have missed some open shots, but through additional training and reps, they'll make those shots. But they had all those foundational qualities to be great.
Is that the misconception sometimes about going and trying to play at a higher level for whatever standard it is? Like I was talking to, for people that don't know, the GM of Westchester Knicks yesterday, Ermal, and we were talking about how do you bridge the gap between, being in the G League and going to the NBA? And he was like, guys that put up stats, they don't need a replacement for Kevin Durant. They need another guy to facilitate him. Is that the difference in terms of if you want to play at elite or higher level for whatever level you're at, where you need to find a role instead of just trying to put up numbers?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we talk about this a lot. It's funny. I've seen kids who've averaged 4 points a game get 4 years of a quality education in college. And I've seen kids who've averaged 30 points a game never get a look. Each of these teams, they have their superstars, no matter what the level is. They've got the guy who can score 20, 25 points a game, right? It's very rare you'll see teams that have 3 or 4 guys that average 25. There's only so much of the ball can go around. But what they want is they want guys that they can build around, right? A set guy, someone that's going to rebound, someone that's going to run their lanes hard, someone that's, going to set great screens and just show that great effort. I mean, CJ is a great example of that, right? If you looked at CJ, and I've obviously played with CJ's dad and been around him. CJ wasn't the leading scorer in college basketball last year. He averaged 6 or 8 points a game, right? And even some games I questioned he should have been playing more. Some I questioned he should have been playing less. But that's both sides of it. But he's in the G League because as they say, he's analytics pop, right? And I've spoken to scouts and obviously GMs about him, him and other players, and it's because he goes out and does the right thing. Gets the ball in the right guy's hands at the right time, like not when they're coming off a screen, right as they're coming off a screen, right? Gets it to the right people at the right time, creates the space for them to occupy real estate and attack. And I think we get so caught up in the Instagram and social media hype of basketball that everything's got to be a step back 3 or 55 dribbles to go 2 feet. It's not. It's about being efficient. It's about attacking space, and it's about making your teammates better.
Ermal was giving me some insights into he knows Irish people and Irish players. We kind of gave the characteristics of them. What characteristics or qualities do you see in Irish players who consistently make a successful jump to whatever level they want to play at?
I think it's the desire. It's the toughness. I think we've got an inherent toughness in us. And maybe history has put that in us, but when you come over here, you have to prove yourself. Those who come over here and think, oh, well, I was the man in Dublin or Cork or Limerick or Tipperary or Belfast, like you come over here with that, you'll go home really fast because every guy or girl you're playing with, they were stars on their team too. I think you have to come over. I think what separates the Irish kids is one, the toughness. And, you spoke with Lucy yesterday, right? And I've been very involved with Lucy. Lucy's one of the best players in Division 2, and it's because of her toughness. She's an incredible athlete, incredible player. She's tough as nails, and she's just got the right mindset. And, we talk about intentionality, right? Being very intentional. Be here for the right reason. Show up every day, go to the gym, work hard, work a little harder than the guy beside you, the girl beside you. But I think as Irish people, we kind of feel like we have something to prove because we come from such a small nation, and you come to this massive place where there's millions, literally millions and millions of kids playing basketball, and the only way you can stand out is by being tougher and work harder.
That's the other thing of this, since documenting all of the kids going to America, how each player coming here has led to success for somebody else, the pathway built. And there is a standard now for an Irish player. You have to live up to the reputation, not just for yourself, but to help the next kid. And I think a lot of the players who have been here in the past, who have talked to Sean Flood, John Carroll, they have set the path for some, and some players have followed their footsteps, gone to the same school. But there's an expectation now, if you're an Irish player and they've coached Irish kids before, you need to be like them in terms of as in the toughness and the qualities.
Yeah, and that's what coaches look for. Coaches look to kind of remove the complexity in the personnel and our rosters. And, even on the backs of the 4 of us at Post, right, we have more players now in the CACC, which is the same league we played in. Sean McCarthy came and played at Felician, and Lucy's at Caldwell, Ronnie is at Caldwell, Erica's at Felician, Mikey's at Dominican.
The 2 guys are at Post as well.
Yeah, sorry, I was about to get Harry and Stanley, right, my guys, right? They're at Post. It's funny, that league has just kind of absorbed Irish kids because they know it's a it's an extremely fast league. You've seen it. Like, it is lightning fast. Most people don't. It's faster than some Division 1 leagues, and it's tough. It's really physical, and the Irish kids seem to do well in that setting. But I think overall, that toughness it's kind of expected from us because of our history, right? People think we fight and drink all day. We might do one or the other, but we have something to prove. Again, it's coming from a small place, and feel like we've got to step in and start at the bottom and work our way up. And I think we bring baggage. There's a lot of kids here, and I've talked to you about it. They're heavily influenced by AAU culture, which in itself, 90% of it brings in a tremendous amount of baggage. But when you have a kid that comes, there's no parents, grandparents involved, and is just here doing the right thing, it's a coach's dream.
What's the reality when a kid gets here that they don't understand at home?
One, how hard it is. It's extremely hard. And we've all been through it. To come out the other end of it, still loving the game of basketball, it's quite a journey. I mean, here I am at 47, I still love the game, but there was times I really questioned if I'd ever touch a ball again. I think every player goes through that. It's extremely hard being here. One, I think the biggest transition is training 6-7 days a week, but like lifting before training, then training and practicing, and then going at it again, and then having to do schoolwork, and then keeping your grades up, and then making sure you're adequately nourished, sleep. It's a lot. You are an athlete with regards to the requirements, and that's the same for high school kids. I see what Kieran does here every day. Gets up early, is gone, is shooting before school, after school lifting, after school practicing, comes back, works out again. Like, it's every day. It's hard. Trying to build that consistency is extremely challenging. And then look, you're away from home. You're away from your creature comforts. You're away from your friends, your family, right? You're in a whole new culture. That takes time to get used to. That's where I do think I help a lot with these kids, because I do tell them, don't call your mammy and daddies, even though their mammy and daddies probably hate me for saying that. Call me first, because I've had several calls where kids like, I can't do this anymore. And I just say, hey, you're not the first. We've all been there. Hang in there. Get to tomorrow. I was the same way. I wanted to quit 7 times. I did. I could genuinely want to quit. I was tired, sore, wasn't playing when I came here first. It's hard. It's really, really hard. It's not what it is on social media.
That's the other thing. When players come from Ireland, they're probably on an Irish team sometimes, not all the time. They're playing for their school, their club. They're generally the best players, so they're playing a lot. They have the ball in their hand, and then they come here. What advice or how do they deal with not having, we were talking about finding your level, and some kids are still, particularly as freshmen, not getting minutes. How do they deal, or what's your advice on dealing with not playing?
Yeah, and that's the mental toughness side of it, right? It can be emotionally draining. And it's funny, I had this conversation with Emma Gribben. Emma, I forgot to mention, she's at Dominican, right? She was a freshman, and last year she came up to me at Caldwell for a game, and she just said, hey, any advice? She hadn't been playing. And I just said, look, kid, first off, I know you can work hard. Keep working hard. Just earn 1 minute. If you can get 1 minute, that's great. And then figure out how you're going to get the second minute. Don't go looking for 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Just find that 1 minute. And then whatever you did for that 1 minute, repeat it again and again, and then do more. I think you just have to be patient, right? You have to be really patient. I mean, I hardly played my first semester here. It wasn't until Christmas I got a look. And that was very frustrating. I wanted to quit several times between, I came here and that Christmas, because I was outworking everybody, and I was like, am I going to get anywhere? Kids are going through that right now. We know several kids are going through it. It's grind, it's patience, it's persistence. It's, you learn a lot about yourself when you're in those situations. And it's very tough for kids who have played a lot to go from playing 0. I was telling you last night, the hardest transition here for kids is the jump between high school and college, because you've gone from being the star to being basically a nobody, and you have to work your way back up again. And you're a teenager, and you're playing against teammates who are 4 and 5 years older than you, and you're like, this is not fair. Well, that's life. And those who stay the course get the reward.
Can you explain the difference for people that don't understand high school versus prep, and then junior college versus NAIA D3, D2, D1?
Yeah, so high school is 4 years. At least, it does vary a little bit in some states, but I'll go by the state of New Jersey where we live in. So it's 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th grade, which is essentially from second year on in Ireland, right? and you play for 4 years, and then after that you hope to get recruited to go to college, and usually you would have decided by your junior year or 11th grade or 5th year, right, where you're going, right? We're going through this with Kieran right now, right? And then that's 4 years. If you don't get recruited, or you didn't like where you were getting recruited, say if you think you're Division 1 and you're only getting recruited by Division 3 teams, which that's a whole separate subject, kids will go on to a prep school. Now, a prep school is that additional year. It's like a high school plus 1 year. So there's some schools you go into a prep school, but they're not a prep school. So that's even confusing in itself. Like Seton Hall Prep and St. Peter's Prep that are here by me, they don't do prep years. They're just called preparatory schools or prep schools. But then you get like true prep schools like, say, Blair Academy, which is a very famous one here in New Jersey. You go and do a 5th year, right? It's not necessarily a gap year. You do go to class, you do college level courses or additional stuff, and you use that year to see if that's the chance that can bridge the gap to where you ultimately want to go, right? So then if you're fortunate enough to go to college, there's different levels. Junior colleges are 2-year colleges. So junior colleges and community colleges are the same. They're 2 years, right? And when you come out of there, you would have what's called an associate's degree, right? NAIA is a 4-year institution. It's just a different level. It's a different leagues. You've got the NCAA and the NAIA. Most NAIA schools are 4-year universities or colleges. Universities offer master's degrees, colleges don't. But that's the difference. And then within the NCAA, you've got Division 3, Division 2, Division 1, right? Division 3, they typically don't give scholarships, right? Division 3 tends to be very high academic, which is, I think, fantastic places for some players to go play, right? I've had kids at Division 3 that end up, on their 4th and 5th years in Europe playing basketball, right? It's still very high quality. Anywhere you're playing in college here is good, right? Division 2, where I played, they typically do give scholarships, maybe not all the schools. I was fortunate enough to get a full scholarship. And then Division 1, almost all of them give full scholarships, and that's the tip of the spear. But now what you're seeing with this transfer portal, we just saw it this week, 3 Division 3 schools beat Division 1 schools. So there's talent everywhere. There's talent everywhere.
Can you explain what a walk-on is?
Yeah, so a walk-on is a kid that goes to a school. They have not been recruited by the coach. They have not been offered a scholarship. Some teams will have open tryouts for maybe 1 or 2 spots. And there's 2 types of walk-on. There's the preferred walk-on, which is where the coach likes you and thinks you can contribute but doesn't have a scholarship for you. But if you're willing to put the grind in, they'll give you what's called a PWO, preferred walk-on. Now, there's walk-ons have restrictions. Usually they don't travel with the team, and usually they don't play. They might get in like the last game at the end of the year if it's a blowout, just so the crowd can recognize you. Walk-on is just someone who's basically walked on to campus and said, I'll give the basketball team a try, and off we'll go. I mean, there's a great example. Jeff Hornacek, who played in the NBA for 16 years, he was a walk-on at Iowa State. Just tried out for the basketball team and ended up being, NBA player with the Utah Jazz and Phoenix and a bunch of teams, and was a coach in the NBA. It happens.
When the kid comes here and isn't playing, I think the importance of it being a good teammate is obviously important to everyone, but it really shows. I remember I was down watching University of Texas, and she was actually a walk-on at the time. She's from Texas. Her name is Sarah Graves. Her attitude, but she was also automatic from 3, but her attitude and her hype for her teammates, and Grace was so complimentary of her, and I could see her energy in the practices. She was a walk-on for freshman year, was offered a scholarship, and is now in her senior year. Just, the importance of being a good teammate here in the States and how it is valued by coaches. Yeah,
I go back to the statement I made earlier about the 3 E's, right? When I walk into a gym, where you look for that energy, effort, and enthusiasm. That's value to a team. Again, it removes complexity. It's not someone who's high maintenance. Like, you really have your teammates back. Like, you genuinely care. And when you have that level of sincerity on a roster, it really meshes people together. Someone like Sarah Graves, right? And there's been many other examples. She put her time in. Remember, her family probably paid full tuition for those 2 years or whatever, 1 or 2 years she was a walk-on. And then Coach Schaefer rewarded her. I'm going to give you a scholarship because I see that you actually are impactful to this team. It may not box every night. Your teammates love being around you. She's probably incredible at practice, right, or training, right? And whatever opportunity she gets in a game, great, but her expectations have been fully managed. And look, we all know it doesn't matter what sport it is. You've teammates like that, they're invaluable.
Now we're getting to the complexity.
Yeah.
NIL, transfer portal, it's changed college basketball.
Yeah, I mean, college basketball is not an amateur sport anymore. It's just not. It's kids are getting paid. They're getting paid directly by the universities now. NIL, which is naming, imaging and likeness, which is where you will be paid by a fundraising group called the Collective, which is usually a bunch of alumni that are passionate donors to the organization, and they create a pot of money, however big or small it is for each university. Some are quite large. Kentucky has 22 million invested into their men's program. Other schools only have 100,000, right? And then what the coaches do, or now we have GM roles, general manager roles in these colleges, they try to buy, I hate to say it, buy the best roster possible with the money they have. And some of that is maybe getting some high school kids that you can get for cheap. I hate to say that, but or you go to the transfer portal, which is now the basketball player marketplace, and kids put their names in and say that they want to be contacted by everybody or a certain group of schools, and they probably are transferring for many reasons. Either they didn't play a lot at the last school because either that was a bad choice, or for other reasons, and now they want to go to a different level and play more, or they played a lot and want more money to go to another school that will pay them more, which is the kind of the leverage and the arbitrage that goes into college basketball now. Transfer portal, to me, I don't like it, in that now there's no commitment to programs. Everybody moves around after a year. I mean, your CC kids are playing in 4 colleges in 4 years, which is nuts. But I would like to think that there has to be some sort of commitment for a minimum of 2 years or something. But that's just one man's opinion. But it really hurts the high school kids getting recruited. I mean, we've lived through the situation right now where college coaches have told us that they're no longer recruiting high school kids. They're just not doing it. They're cutting their budgets. They're not going to AAU events, not going to high school events. They're just sitting on a computer and recruiting kids off a transfer portal. Yeah. Different times.
Yeah, and the other thing for people that don't know, there was transferring before, but you had to sit out a year. You had to redshirt.
Yeah, there was transferring before, and you did have to do that. And I think when college coaches started moving around with some of the allegations that were chasing them, and the kids were the ones that were actually getting punished, they kind of took down the ring fencing on that and the barriers, and now it's gone to the extreme. I mean, look, you have situations here. I think this is the dark side of it. I know of kids that have gone into the transfer portal and are not playing basketball anymore. There's only so many scholarships out there. There's 350 something Division 1 schools, and they may have 10 full scholarships. But the math doesn't work out when there's like 700 kids in the portal and there's only 400 places open. So either that D1 player now goes down to D2 or D3 or doesn't play basketball. And I know of situations where D1 players have basically elected themselves out of the marketplace for college basketball because of the transfer portal. A lot of us just get bad guidance.
What's a redshirt year for people that don't know?
Redshirt year is when, for whatever reason, there's medical redshirt, and that's self-explanatory. You've had an injury you're not going to recover in time to contribute to the year. Or your roster is so deep with talents, and you've been involved. You've heard some of my conversations with some players. Like, for instance, we had a player here that I was mentoring where the coach said, we've already got 4 kids ahead of this player, and we think a redshirt year would be good. So basically what that does, it allows there to sit out, doesn't use up any eligibility. They do get to go to training and practice every day. They get to do everything except play in the games. Now, I think in some situations a redshirt year is a fantastic opportunity for a kid, especially if they want to become more prepared. I think in some ways it can be detrimental because it can crush their confidence, but that's where mentoring and having the right people in your corner to give you the reasons why that's a good thing helps a lot. I've recommended some players redshirt for all the right reasons, and I've recommended some players don't redshirt, and we tell them why. And it's a great option, I think, to have for kids. I think it's a tremendous option to have for kids, as long as they understand why.
What advice do you give to kids on having the right people around them?
Oh God, we got enough time. It's really important. Look, I would never tell anyone how to raise their kids, so obviously their parents are extremely important to them. A lot of kids I get involved with, they have great parents and they have someone like me to mentor, but I mentor everybody. I give everybody kind of the landscape. A lot of the kids I have dealt with come from single parent homes, and they give me full guidance ability. I think it's really important to do your homework, right? Stay off social media, have conversations with coaches, have conversations with people who have done it before. That's where I kind of differentiate myself. I've been here. I've been that Irish kid that's felt the same way. I know what your parents feel like now because I'm now a parent, right? I didn't understand it at the time what my parents were feeling. It's it's everything to have the right people in your corner. I've gotten to situations where I've told kids I will not do anything with you till you literally cleanse your environment. And that meant like getting rid of your phone, getting rid of all these people that are giving you bad advice because their lens is very commercial, looking for money. I don't get involved with the money side of anything. I do this just, as you know, my price is a bag of potatoes, as we look at the potatoes here in my house. And kids laugh. It's really important to have the right people in your corner, and you got to be brutally honest with them. I know I get some flack for being like almost hard on the kids. It's not. I mean, there's several families at home will tell you like they really valued the honesty on how hard it is and the commercial end of this and how challenging it is culturally, mentally, physically, emotionally. And if they really truly want to do it, they have to be able to absorb that level of truth.
What's in terms of the picking a school, what's the mistake?
A lot of kids chase logos, big names, and that's no knock on kids that are playing in big name schools. I think no matter what the level is, junior college, even high schools, right? So it's really, really important you pick a place where you know, one, coaches have a good track record, right? You know that they're good people. But keeping in mind, they're running a business, right? They're also running a basketball team, but they're running a business. It's livelihood based on performance and collective performance. Knowing if you can actually contribute to that team. So many people come over here or call me and say, oh, XYZ school offered me a scholarship, I think I'm going to take it. I'm like, whoa. And first question I ask, tell me about their offense. I have no idea. Well, tell me about their defense. I have no idea. Like, they just chase the name. And don't get me wrong, I would have done the same thing. You just chase the opportunity. I kind of pump the brakes on them and say, okay, let me do some research. Do I think you can fit in this offense? Are you athletic enough? Do you shoot the ball enough? And then let me look at the defensive philosophy. Are they mostly man-to-man? Are they zone? Are they a mix? How do they mix it up? What's the league like overall, right? Is it a lot of half-court stuff? Is it primary break stuff? And that's the analysis I think helps a lot, because I've taken situations where kids have gotten an offer from College X and I'm like, nope, you're going to fail. You're going to fail miserably. You need to go to College Y or College Z because that's where you can grow. And you may eventually want to transfer back into those schools, but you really have to do your homework. Don't chase the big name. Just because they're giving you a scholarship. We've seen situations, kids have sat on a bench for 4 years. You know, I've had these conversations with kids that wanted to transfer or whatever, and I'm like, you're not going to play any more than you did if you went up a level. Like, where you are right now is exactly where you need to be. And, you know, it's so far so good with that advice.
I've done a lot of interviews with current players, particularly mine, and they were talking about the importance of building relationships in the recruiting process. But just on video and tape, we are filming games more in Ireland, which is great because there's actually now footage. But on how do you build actually a good tape for a coach to watch?
First off, get rid of the music, right? I literally had this conversation with a kid yesterday. Like, some of the music they put in these things is awful. And the coaches literally just, they put it on mute anyway. So just leave out the music, right? Don't show it. You've probably seen some of Kieran's stuff I put together. Like, I show things like wall-ups, passing ahead, diving on loose balls, rebounding, right? Yeah, and of course you show scoring. But if you look at every highlight clip, coaches be like, oh, I just recruited 12 Michael Jordans. They didn't miss. You know what I mean? And we're all guilty of this. I think you have to show your whole game, if that's a highlight clip. But the best thing of all is full games. Nothing beats full games. I always ask a kid, give me 4 full games. Because when you're recruiting somebody, there's no coach has recruited a perfect kid. There's gaps. That's why there's coaches. They're there to close those gaps. But if they see that you do things like run really hard, rebound, pick your teammate off the floor, can make a free throw, can make shots, right, can make the extra pass, right, can wall up, right, doesn't foul silly fouls. That's what impresses and coaches can go, I can fix that. I really like that. That could help her to fix it. Or I could make that better. That's why coaches love to coach. They love to teach, right? And what's teaching about? It's educating, it's closing gaps, it's upskilling. So I think we get so caught up in the highlight hype that it's really important that you show everything.
What advice do you give families and kids that we see a lot of coaches and scouts go international? They might show up at Euros and even, different places in Europe. What advice do you give them on when they see a scout or a coach in person?
Just introduce yourself. Listen, I go through this. We were in Romania somewhere with Kieran, and I walked into the gym. I think I counted 60 4 Division 1 coaches there. Every NBA team had a scout there. Some had 2. There were some European clubs had scouts there. Listen, don't get me wrong, I'm social, but I'm not going to up and introduce myself to 100 people. But there's somewhere there that I know because we have a relationship with them. Go up, say hi. They're just doing their job. Don't sit there and annoy them and sit with them all day, right? Let them do their job. It's good for them to know that you're human. As much as these coaches are recruiting players, they're recruiting families too. They're absolutely recruiting families. I know coaches that have literally gone to games and just watched the families. They've watched the mother, the father, the grandparents, because that's a reason probably 90% of kids don't get the opportunity they thought they had. It's because the behaviour of parents, and I mean, I've seen all sorts of craziness as a coach being on the other side. And when Jen and I are at games, we sit away from it, just sit and not being antisocial. Just you don't want to get guilty by association, but that's the one thing that they look for. But it's okay to say hello, hi, I'm so and so's mom, dad. Thank you for coming here. Enjoy the game.
What's in terms of the advice to parents? What you see the video clips of AAU parents shouting abuse at referees, at table officials, parents or coaches or whoever, even other kids. You see mad stuff online. What advice do you give parents on that? Is it stay kind of maybe separate yourself obviously from that noise? I'm just for a parent. I'm trying to think of a parent that isn't in basketball, that their kid is very talented and they're trying to figure this out too.
Just encourage your kid. Just be there to encourage your kid and their teammates. Clap for them. Listen, don't get me wrong. They're still a competitor. There's times I've wanted to just unload on referees, but it's not a good look. You have to internalize it and just applaud your kid. Know that they're out there for the right reason. Know that they want to try hard and they want to build these moments and memories with their teammates. Yeah, there's times they get beaten, there's times they win. That's the highs and lows of it. But just encourage your kid. That's it. Just tell them you really enjoy watching them out there competing, see how happy they are with their teammates. But sports is a direct correlation to life. You're not going to win every game. Hopefully you don't lose every game. But that's why sports is great. It teaches them a lot about themselves. But just encourage the kids. I'm on the back, say it's great, good job. Keep doing better. I always go back to my dad, right, and my mother, because we grew up with a special needs brother, right, and he couldn't do a lot of this. My brother Kevin, who's passed, and a lot of it was my dad's a competitive guy, but he would just say, did you try your hardest? And I'll never forget that. And when the answer is yes, okay, well done. Now go again the next time. And those type of lessons. But people have lost their minds. We see it. I mean, I've seen parents arrested at games. I've seen people dive into windows of cars after referees. I mean, it's absolutely insane what goes on. But you think about it, why that behaviour happens, especially these large AAU events. Some of these families, they're living paycheck to paycheck. And they have an opportunity to literally change their kid's life with a scholarship that could be worth upwards of $400,000. It does make people do crazy things. But it's trying to find that balance is challenging for some people.
Bringing it back to the Irish player, let's say there's a 14, 15-year-old boy or girl listening. They want to go to America. From an actual skill and game point of view, what should they be working on? Let's say they train Tuesday, Thursday with their club. They have a match on Saturday or Sunday morning. What should they be doing?
Number one thing is conditioning. The kids that I mentor right now at home, I have them send me their mile times every week, right? So can you run a mile, depending on the age. But I have a kid right now I'm mentoring and I'm trying to get him under 6-minute miles, which will be a huge benchmark for him. Because I send those mile times, or I get them sent and I send them and I go, okay, this kid's putting the time in, right? That tells me a lot about their desire. Look, you can always work on ball handling, you can always work on skill, and a lot of that you can do at home. You don't need a fancy gym. You can do it in your backyard. I mean, I used to do it on the side of my house, right? There was no rim. You might do ball handling, footwork, slides, whatever it may be, shooting, right? You can do all that with very, very limited space.
And even on shooting, people will say, I don't have a rim. But even stuff you were doing with the 5th grade girls and even stuff Adam Harrington was teaching me in terms of the NBA skills for shooting coach, the importance of having the ball, rolling it up your leg.
Roll, drop and set up, and even just the footwork, getting your feet under you. I mean, obviously we can't demonstrate that in this environment, but the number one thing for me is conditioning. I think you can control that 100%. Whether it's doing, laps of a field, running up a hill, going to a local track, you can always be in what Adam says, effing elite shape, right? That you can control, and there's no excuse. And I love when kids, are putting in the time, because it tells me a lot about them. It almost you can create the story after that. If a kid's willing to put in time to get their mile time down to a certain level, and then we push them on to another level, and they invest in that. But again, any Irish kid can do that. Anyone can.
The other things I've heard is defence and shooting. That will get you opportunities. 3-and-D players becoming popular.
Yeah, defence will always get you popular in any sport, I think. And listen, that kind of goes back to coaching. I think it, would probably need to be emphasised more. And these coaches are all trying their hardest. But defence is, while there is skill involved in it, the technical skill of it, a lot of it's desire. It's pure heart. But a lot of that goes to conditioning. If you're in great shape, you can keep somebody in front of you. Like I'll use Emma Tolan as an example, right? And I was heavily involved with Emma's recruitment. Emma's playing right now because she's playing tremendous defence. And a lot of that goes back to her Gaelic football background, right? And I'd like to think that she'll continue to keep that mindset so that she can crack into, more minutes there. But, and Emma can shoot too, right? But she's had to tweak her shots since she came here. She had to improve some fundamentals, clean some stuff up. But those are things that kids can just work on every day. It's part of those, I was saying yesterday, the daily vitamins, the conditioning, and those fundamental aspects of the game.
What habits separate the greats from the rest? My favourite question for everyone.
Consistency, doing it every day. It's hard to do it every day. It's easy to take a day off and say, I'll get back to it tomorrow, right? But tomorrow's a missed opportunity today, right? It's that consistency is, you have to have it. It's what separates the great. And it's not about doing extravagant stuff. It's just doing the simple stuff. You see with the 5th grade girls, right? They start off with full court layups at 20%, 50%, 70%. But that's their daily vitamins. Layups every day, then stopping off 2 feet, hitting bang shots, then working on their free throws. We do that every single practice. They know that that's their routine. And even yesterday, they're like, this is getting boring. I'm like, good. It's supposed to get boring, right? But it's also giving you an edge. Consistency is the key.
Academically, for, coming over to high school or for college, just your experience on, I know the Leaving Cert kind of is a little bit tricky in terms of translating the higher and the lower levels, or what's it, higher and ordinary level now. Yeah, how do you, just your advice on, I know you're not from an academic background, but just your experience on that.
Yeah, I mean, I did the Leaving Cert, right, so I know how wonderful that exam is. I say that in jest. For the most part, so there's a document out there that has a transition matrix between the grade levels of almost every country in the world to a translation to the US grade level. So that's available online. If you've done a good Leaving Cert, you'd be fine. That's kind of anything. Good grades are good grades, right? If you've done a crappy Leaving Cert, you might have to, that's where, like, I'll give an example, like Gandhi and Kuba came here, right? They didn't do the Leaving Cert, right? And Gandhi, especially because she's gone on to college, right, she came here, did 3 years of high school, had just finished TY in Limerick, and she had to do some extra work in some areas and some work in other areas because she'd already met the curriculum requirements for what they call the core subjects, like English, maths, sciences would be the core subjects here. It really depends on the state you go to. It depends on the school you go to. I think a lot more Irish kids, kind of a secondary question to that, I think a lot more Irish kids could come here and get a great high school education and go on to college. I do think we get enamoured with the Leaving Cert. I'm not saying every kid doesn't do the Leaving Cert, don't get me wrong. I just think there's some kids have passed up opportunities because they've become so obsessed with the Leaving Cert.
A tennis coach actually said that. He said, for love nor money, I cannot get parents away from this Leaving Cert.
Yeah, and look, everyone has their opinion. And I did the Leaving Cert. It was a horrible exam. And I know it's very different now than it is when we did it. But there is an obsession with it that literally robs kids of opportunities. I mean, I've had kids that just said, no, I'm staying to do the Leaving Cert. And I just say, okay, good luck with that and move on to the next one. And it's a shame because I try to educate the parents and all that. And it's well and good. But at the end of the day, it's their child, it's their decision. And I have to respect that. But you can come here and get great education. I think there's a knock on the American system that's not as good as the Irish system. I'd flip it the other way around even sometimes because there's some amazing schools here. I see where my kids go to school. Incredible. Are there bad schools here? Of course there are, but there are everywhere. But kids can come here, get a quality high school diploma or Leaving Cert equivalent and go on to do all sorts of extraordinary things.
Is there anything that I haven't asked you that's important to touch on?
I think just, what's really important, obviously, I've kind of got the reputation as being the mentor for a lot of these kids. I think if they want to do it, I'm very open to helping everybody. I don't deny people making money from doing this. What I do have issues with is the lack of honesty. It really bothers me. It bothers me as a human being, but it bothers me as a parent more than anything. I'm more than happy to talk to people. You may not like my responses sometimes, but I'm going to tell you the truth. And there's great people here for advice. Like I'm very good friends with Paul Manning, and Paul is an assistant coach at Westtown High School. Paul grew up in Cork. I played with his brother Alan. Like he's an assistant coach here at a great school, and he's got the two boys down there from Ireland, Declan and Eb, and they're doing terrific, right? Two great young men, but Paul and I gave them great guidance, and now they're with Paul. They were with Emer, who I mentioned. Like, there's people like that. Talk to these people, right? Reach out to us. I have no problem. You've heard me now. I'm on the phone sometimes more for basketball than for work, although I hope work isn't listening to this. But reach out to everybody. Connect with everybody. Connect to me on Instagram, Twitter. I have no problem talking to people. Connect and reach out to Paul. Talk to Emer. Emer played here. She's been a girl over here, did this. There's lots of others, I'm not trying to make people busy.
But I think other people who've been on, or anyone that's gone in the path, most of the time they're happy to chat.
Yeah, because I think they all want to see another kid have the same, because it is, at the end of the day, it's a phenomenal experience. It really is. It changed my life. It absolutely changed my life. And I think it did for 99% of, and again, it wasn't easy, but it was extremely rewarding. It's like the phrase I tell parents, it's the hardest thing you'll do in your life to date, but it's also the most rewarding thing you'll do in your life to date. And I stand by that. But I would say just connect with people that have actually been through it and have been through it like in the right sense. I honestly this will be viewed as unfavourable. I don't think people should be asking for tens and tens of thousands for kids to come over here. I really genuinely don't.
What's the ceiling? Like we've talked about this, particularly from the girls' side, this is our golden generation. What is the ceiling of Irish players coming to the States? Or is there one?
Ask Andy. Ask Emma, ask Grace, ask any of them. It's nothing got to do with them playing at the top 6 schools in the nation. Obviously, Gandhi's at UConn, so that's a very, very unique situation, and she's amazing. I mean, the story of her and I is very different in itself, but I think there should be no ceiling. There should be no ceiling from any kid from anywhere. If you have the ambition, you have that intention, you can achieve anything you want. I mean, do I think Gandhi could end up in the WNBA? Absolutely. I don't even have a second of reservation. You might go, well, she's not even playing at UConn right now. So what? Look at all the other kids that didn't play at UConn and end up in the WNBA and even in the Hall of Fame. So the ceiling is, it's all the way, and it's for the boys and the girls. We've got boys playing at the highest level, right? We've got boys that went, D2 or D3 are playing professional basketball. If that's what you want, go for it. And I just think we have to get away from this mindset of, oh, sure, we're from Ireland and, sure, isn't it grand just to be here? No, it's not. Don't be here. Be here, leave an impact, and come back for more. That's kind of my little rub with some of the international stuff. I think we really, and I'm friends with some of these coaches, and I love them to death. I think we really have to go in with the mindset to be top 8 every time, and even not be satisfied with that. And I know these coaches are pushing for that. They really do, because we have the talent. We just need better support from the governing body, and funding is a big gap there. But we have, in this golden era of Irish basketball, right, I've never ever seen a groundswell of talent on both grades. And I was saying this to someone the other day, I see it very realistically a day in the future where we are competing for A levels at underage at the Eurobasket, and maybe even talking about qualifying for Olympics or a World Cup. Call me crazy, but I think it's there. I have talent. I mean, you and I just listed out how many women's players that are here, 30 something. 30, yeah. And I still think we miss somebody.
Definitely.
And there's more coming, because I'm bringing more, right? And the more that we get exposure to here and keep them all together, I mean, just if you look at our women's team, what it could be like, even our under-20 team.
And they've done very well the last couple of years.
They have, and Carl's got a great group of girls there, and I think we're always just missing that one player. Like, it's always like,
and sometimes there's a bit of luck, with different things coming in.
That's sports,
absolutely. Yeah. But
that's
they've been under 20 program probably gone under the radar on the boys and the girls in terms of what they've done.
But I even think, and this is challenging some of my friends, and they know this, I think the 16s, the 18s on both sides could even do better. We always, and listen, don't get me wrong, the coaches know that too, so I'm not calling them out, but there's definitely opportunity for more and more. And I know those coaches are really trying to strengthen their rosters and get the best teams out. They're competitive people, and these kids are very lucky to have them as coaches, but we just got to keep dreaming big.
Yeah, absolutely.
The little nation that rocks the world, right? We can do it in basketball too.
Yeah, well, we're putting Ireland anyway on the global basketball map, and the perception is changing. For example, even me chatting to a GM of a G League team about Irish players and him watching Irish players. Like, that's the level we're at now. I'm conscious of time. My microphones are going to run out of storage. So, but we chat about this all the time. We'll do it again another time. Kieran, I'm going to move on to Sideline 7, saying 7 questions at the end of every episode. You're an avid listener, so I'm expecting some good responses. Question 1, what's your favourite quote?
My favourite quote? Jeez. Let me come back to you on that. I got too many of them in my head.
All good. Sorry. Question 2, best sporting event you've been to. Pick one as a player, one as a coach.
All-Ireland hurling final this year. Second half was one of the most epic sporting things I've ever witnessed in my life. Tipperary Pork, obviously I'm biased, but that was something absolutely incredible. That was incredible. Playing wise, my debut for Ireland was unbelievable. I shook like a leaf, nearly shit my pants. I know I probably can't say that, but when you put that jersey on, it's life-changing. It's amazing. It's absolutely incredible.
As a coach?
As a coach, funnily, I've coached Kieran's teams and we won a county final. We all know how good county finals are. We lost the county final the year before and I blamed it on myself, which I made a coaching error. And I told the boys, I said, we'll redeem ourselves. And we went undefeated the next year and beat our biggest rival at home. So many people showed up for that we violated fire codes and people had to be turned away. And it was an incredible moment for those boys. Amazing. Incredible.
Question 3, biggest setback or challenge so far in your career, and how did you react to it?
I think breaking my legs was tough as a kid. I was in a wheelchair. But the flip side of that is I came out of it and I found basketball and the rest of my life changed. Amazing. When the doctor told me I'd never play sports ever again.
Question 4, your biggest achievement on or off the court?
I think obviously the kids. We have 3 healthy kids. I mean, I'm conscious I grew up with a brother with special needs. How amazing it is to have healthy children that are, living out their dreams. That's the best thing ever. Amazing.
Question 5, advice to your 18-year-old self?
For those of you that are listening that know my 18-year-old self, you're probably going to laugh. I just think stay the course, be consistent, be tenacious. I know I'm giving a very high-level answer, but I don't know if I would change anything. I wouldn't have. Just keep working hard. Have that kind of stubborn, tenacious mentality and just keep going forwards.
Question 6, dream dinner guest and why?
Dream dinner guest would be Ian Rush. As you see, he's here behind me on my wall. He's my all-time favourite athlete. I've idolised him since I was a kid. He was the reason I wore number 9. I've gotten to meet him actually and play golf with him. I haven't had dinner with him, but I'm just enamoured by his story and kind of how he came up through the Welsh system and obviously Liverpool's all-time leading goal scorer.
Amazing. Final question before I let you go. If your life was a book, what chapter would this be called?
I'd probably say The Madness, right? Because my wife Jen thinks I'm absolutely nuts. Well, she probably figured that out a long time ago, and she says it in the most kind way that, continuing to help these kids, I love it, but it is madness. You've been around us now for a week. You see the chaotic life we have, but I wouldn't change it for anything. And it seems to get more chaotic with, you see my schedule, like we're balancing between 5th grade girls games, boys high school games, all these kids that I show up for, right? Like we went to Emma and Mikey and Lucy and I'm big on Gandhi. It's just madness right now. And we love it. We love every second of it.
Have you picked a favourite quote yet?
No, I haven't. Sorry. I'm terrible for cliche. I'll come back to you with my favourite quote. You stumped me on that one. I think probably, failing to prepare is, or blah, see, that's the John Wooden quote.
Yeah. Fail to plan to fail. Or
Same thing. Yeah, that's probably the one that sticks out the most, just because of what he did.
Amazing. Well, Kieran, I'll link everything in terms of your contact details in the description if anyone wants to reach out. And also thank you for not only for coming on the podcast, but for having me and connecting me with so many people. This has been a dream trip and facilitated by you guys, so thank you.
Great to have you and love what you're doing. Thank you.